Ambrose, Deputy Chair at TD Securities and former interim leader of the Conservative Party, joins me now. And thank you very much for giving us some of your time. I am interested to get your reaction to not just to her resignation, but what she said in her resignation speech.
Absolutely. I mean, I think today the political landscape is obviously much less diverse and much less rich with the resignation of Annamie Paul. And, you know, we've seen this before. I've been reflecting on what she has said. And it's interesting when you see how wonderful she did in the leaders' debate, and Canadians really didn't get a chance to know her very well. And when they saw her and were introduced to her at the leaders' debate, there was such a good response to her because she's an extremely talented individual. But what happened to her is very much what happens within party politics. So when you look at the very ideologically focused lens of party politics, it becomes a different battle for a lot of women. And that's what Annamie Paul had to face, which is really unfortunate. And I think the way she was treated, with the level of disrespect that she was treated by Green Party internal political dynamics, is really unfortunate.
And when she says, as you know, we've heard her say, it's the worst period in her life, and she didn't stop short of saying that she was under attack and assault. Given we don't know, all of the details of this, but is there anything you would say as a leader coming in that she could have maybe done differently in order to try to gain that support from the outset, or build a coalition, I guess?
Well, from what we can gather, the issue was politics based on a particular policy issue, and it was around her policy or her approach to Israel-Palestine issues. And she took, ironically, the same approach the government of Canada has, which is a very balanced approach. But that wasn't good enough for the internal politics of the Green Party. And as soon as that became apparent, that was her approach to Israel-Canada relations, which was, Israel-Palestine relations, which was a very balanced approach again, and she herself is Jewish. It became clear that they wanted her out, and they were not going to stop at anything to get her out and push her out. And I think what's really sad to see is that they engaged in such a publicly disrespectful campaign to push her out. People going to the media, saying disrespectful things about her. You would hope that these kinds of things, when you have an issue with your leader, you have an issue within the party, that you could find a way to mediate, find a way to at least allow people to leave with grace and dignity and respect. And that's what really bothers a lot of women, especially, to see her treated the way she was.
Yeah, and leaves the Green Party, of course, in tatters as well. Massive job ahead to rebuild, if it can. And to that end, what are your thoughts on whether it should, whether it's relevant in a time when all political parties stand up for climate change?
Oh, absolutely. There's a place on the political spectrum for the Green Party. And it's sad to see that the Green Party is where it's at, because again, I said at the beginning that the political landscape is a much less rich and less diverse with the departure of Annamie Paul. But it's also, when we think about political discourse in this country, the more debate that we have, the more rich that debate is, the better for our democracy. And so absolutely we need to have a thriving, successful Green Party, because the Green Party, some people might call it a fringe party, but in many countries it is not considered a fringe party. And we all suffer from the loss of having that kind of rich debate. So absolutely they should have a leadership race. They should reflect on how they treated their leader, and they should move forward to continue to be part of the debate. I will also add, though, Beverly, when we see, I mentioned specifically around how women sometimes are treated within the political apparatus, and we saw the same thing happen to Jody Wilson-Raybould. As soon as she wasn't of value or seen as of value to the Liberal Party, she was very quickly dismissed. And we saw that happen with Annamie Paul also. So I think political parties have to reflect upon how they treat people that don't, quote unquote, toe the line and agree with everything that is either supported by the membership, because at the end of the day, we should be able to have some respectful debates on some of these issues.
Yeah. Did you ever, in your political career, ever experience a time when you thought it wasn't worth it, you couldn't take it, and because of politics?
Oh, for sure. I think we all experience that. And I think with women, it's exacerbated by social media. I mean, the amount of hatred that women experience in the social media environment, and the amount of sexually violent nature of the commentary that women receive on social media, that is very different than what men in politics experience. And that is just a constant overhang in your political life when you're a woman in politics. There's a lot that needs to change in the political landscape of how women are treated.
And we may be seeing more of Annamie Paul in a completely different role, as she says she wants to continue to serve in some way. So we'll be watching for that. Rona Ambrose, thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.